everyone, my name is Nikki Pike and I'm a mortgage broker with TMG, the Mortgage Group. And I'm here today with David Brant, and he is a partner with Alta Law in Red Deer. Hi, David.
Hi, Nikki.
How are you?
Hi, I'm very well. How are you?
Good, thank you. I'm excited to hear what you have to say today. So a little bit about David. He's been practicing law for 12 years now, and he specializes in real estate, corporate, and wills and estates. So he can help with a lot of different things. And today I'm really curious about one main thing, as most of us are. How is COVID-19 affecting you and your work? And mainly for me, my question would be surrounding the mortgage process and signing of legal paperwork.
Yeah, so lots of changes and things. I mean, I guess as being a lawyer, we're thankful to be on the essential list. So people buying houses, selling houses, needing legal work done are not left kind of in limbo until these restrictions get lifted. But, we are working with the Law Society in terms of trying to figure out different ways to facilitate signings and things like that. So as of right now, I mean, we're still meeting in person if we absolutely need to, if there's no other way to do it. We're taking very stringent safety precautions in terms of, disinfecting pens and areas and having people kind of having sanitizing stations at our door. But the biggest change is, prior, a big part of what we do is verify a client's ID, make sure that the bank is protected from any sort of potential fraudulent transactions, those types of things. So the Law Society has kind of lifted some of those in-person requirements. So now that we're able to do those by video conference, and some of the things that we have to do are, have those ID, photo ID sent to us beforehand and then shown on the video so that I can see it clearly and we can verify it. We have to go through all of the documents and explain them very clearly, swear any sort of affidavits remotely. We've gotten some changes to the language on some of those documents. So they used to always say that this person met with me in person, I verified their ID. Now we've got some wording that says that we met with them by, teleconference. And ultimately, we generally record these for kind of protection, right? So instead of, we always store legal documents for a certain number of years as required by the Law Society in terms of protection for clients. But now we actually can store those recordings of those Zoom meetings so that, if there's anything that comes up that's an issue, we have that to kind of rely on. So that's the biggest one.
That's the biggest thing. So can you maybe walk me through? So I bought a house. Let's say I take possession May 30th. You've got everything you need. I've done my job, so you've got everything you need from bank or lender. What does that process look like now for you as a lawyer, and then for me as the client?
Yeah, it's not a whole lot different. I mean, basically, we'll get those documents in, and then we will make an initial contact to the client, right? So whether that's my assistant emailing or phoning and just saying, we've got the documents, we're getting them prepared. I still review everything when it first comes in. And if there's any issues that I see on the contract that I need to discuss with you or the realtor or the client, I take care of that. All of that stuff can be done by phone. So no real changes on that point. Then we get into, once the documents are prepared and everything's ready to go, we kind of get in touch with the client. We see what their circumstances are. We see whether or not they are able to meet by video. And then we get that set up in terms of like you just did right now with a Zoom meeting invitation. We make sure that they are prepared. They know that they have these things that they have to have with them, the ID. They know that they're going to be swearing some documents, and essentially they have to send that to us in advance, the ID, so that I can take a look at it.
So they email that to you in advance, or they courier that? How do they get that to you?
Yeah, email would work, right? So that I have it, so that I've looked at it, and then I can kind of see what they're holding up and compare it and make sure that it's authentic.
So it's actually quite simple.
Yeah, it really has. I mean, ultimately, the big part of this is just transitioning in terms of language of the documents and the requirements what the Law Society wanted beforehand. So it was always very clear that when we were verifying ID with clients, it was in person.
Yeah.
And a lot of those sworn documents, what we call the affidavit of execution, which is the witness saying that I met with this person and I saw them sign and I verified their ID. Those always said that I met with them in person. So the big thing was getting those changed so that the Law Society was happy and also that Land Titles was happy, so that we weren't getting documents rejected by them when we're trying to register transfers and register mortgages.
So has everything gone quite smoothly then for you and your clients?
For the most part, there's always hiccups in starting these things up and getting up and running. But for the most part, I think it's been pretty seamless. And like I said, I still have been meeting with some clients in person, just taking a little bit more precautions, I guess.
That's perfect. Now, when you're meeting with clients, are you also talking about wills and estate planning and those kinds of things? Is that a good time to revisit all of that stuff as well?
It is. I mean, it's a general thing that I will bring up. We often talk about, life insurance and disability insurance whenever there's a mortgage involved, because sometimes the lenders will provide that to their clients in terms of an additional monthly amount on their mortgages. So we'll talk about that and see what they have in place and if they have other insurance. And then that kind of flows into whether or not they've got a proper will, power of attorney, and personal directive in place as well, because that, it's protecting their spouse, who they're likely buying, spouse or partner that they're usually buying a house with. So if something happens to the breadwinner, then the surviving partner is going to be looked after, and they're going to be able to pay out that mortgage and not kind of be struggling. And right now, obviously, a lot of people have health and wellness on the forefront of their mind, so it's a good time to revisit your estate plan, and especially if you don't have one. The big challenge with that is more kind of when clients are elderly and they need wills right now, whether they want to leave the house. And we can do a lot of the initial stuff by phone, but we're still required to sign those documents in the presence of witnesses. So we're waiting on changes on that as well, and hopefully that will come soon. I know Ontario has implemented those changes already. Yeah.
Well, I only have one last question, then I'll let you get back to work. So with all of these changes that we've seen during the pandemic, do you think any of these changes are going to stick around after the pandemic, or do you think it's going to go right back to the normal it was before?
Well, I think that is dependent on what we define as the pandemic, right? I think there's a lot of aspects of this that are the new normal moving forward for the next, I'm going to speculate and say year to year and a half, right? I don't know. Once they get a vaccine in place, then potentially a lot of this stuff will get lifted. But I think we've always dragged in the legal profession in terms of requiring wet signatures on certain documents and being in the presence to sign this. So this is, for us, in a way, dragging us into the technological age, right? So I'm hoping that some of the things will stay regardless of what the situation is, but certainly would welcome a little bit of the old normal for sure.
I think we're in the same boat on the mortgage side, right? It's some lenders are now accepting electronic signatures, whereas previous to this, they weren't. There's only a few that kind of held out on that. So we've seen most of them now be able to accept an electronic signature and just kind of change a few things in this, I guess, the process of getting the mortgage as well. So, and I think same thing. Yeah, I think some of these will be good to stay and keep after we go back to or go to the new normal, I guess I should say. But I'm missing a lot of the old ways too. So yeah. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to answer my questions today, and I'll make sure that I post your contact info when I share the video. And again, thank you.
Thank you. It's been great.